Cassian Andor.
On this episode of the Star Wars Time Show, Matt returns to the live stage to break down new insights into the Mandalorian and Grogu, as well as the KOTOR remake. He will also review and recap the first issue of the Maul Shadow Lord prequel comic. Punch it, Chewie.
Hey, now, everybody, let's do it. We live, as in me and that mouse I always keep in my pockets. Uh-oh, look at this. Bango's stopping in for a second, but he's leaving us again. He's got to go to Allentown. What the hell's there to do in Allentown, bro? Come on. What are you doing? Put it on your phone. Throw it in the squad car. Either way, here we go. Good to see you, Bango. We missed you. Of course, we're doing a live this week, and I keep saying we. I can't help it. So like I said, just assume there's something in my pocket or my pants that I like to bring with me and refer to it as my co-pilot when Young Nick's not here. Young Nick is holding down SXSW this week and next week. If you're in Austin, try to get a hold of him. Kramer, I would still try to get in there, creep on him, stand outside with a sandwich board and be like, hey, I'm here. Hello, it's me. It's Kramer. Let me in. Because you never know. You never know. Young Nick's a nice guy. I doubt he would turn you away if you actually saw him. So good to be here, everybody. It's been a few weeks since I've gone live. And while I do miss having Nick with me, I love being live versus the pre-records we do. Pre-records are fun. We get to chat, get to hang out with my young buddy, young Nick. But I do miss the allure of lives when we got people chatting. We can throw the chats up there, you know, interact with the fans a bit more than the pre-records. Although I'll point this out, I show up for the pre-recorded instant premieres and young Nick doesn't. So stick that in your young Nick fan pipes and smoke it. All right, people, we got an action-packed show today. Actually got some news to cover, which is always good. Maybe we'll get more than 10 views on this live. But I also got some personal thoughts, some review-esque thoughts, and a recap of the first issue of Shadow of Maul, which is the prequel comic from Marvel that is supposed to help set up Maul Shadow Lord, which is dropping next month on April 6th. But as Nick and I identified many weeks ago, it's kind of odd they decided to release a prequel comic as the show is going to be airing. You know what I mean? We just got issue 1 in March. Issue 2 doesn't even come out until after the show starts. So I'm not sure how it counts as a prequel. I guess it's still going to be set in the past, but wouldn't you, I mean, if you were Disney, if you're Marvel, Lucasfilm, wouldn't you want to release a Maul Shadow Lord prequel and have it all issues released before the actual show begins? Hello, McFly, anybody in there? Come on, let's go, Disney. What are you doing here? Anyways, if you're new here, we'd love a subscription. It's free. Just go down there, click on that sub button, turn on notifications so you see our stupid content, and, come hang out. Every Wednesdays we do this thing. It's either going to be live or pre-recorded, but we're always going to have the chat up and going and someone from the show holding it down with the fans. So, let's get to it. Like I said, lots of Mando Grogu news, some KOTOR remake news, And then that recap, like I was talking about, of Shadow of Maul, which is supposed to inform us and get us introduced and exposed to some of the new characters we're going to meet in Maul Shadow Lord. But up first, you know how we do it here. We got a little Ask Me Anything. We do it every week just to kick off the show, kind of get warmed up, ease into things, let the fans know we hear them. We see you, right? We're Navi over here. I see you. So to get involved in that, just make sure you're following us on our socials. We got an open link to Discord down in the description of this vid. You can catch the prompt for @AMA on Instagram, Discord, like I said, our YouTube community, whatever the hell that is. I think the community mostly hates me, but I do like seeing those things tick up a little bit. So, yeah, let's see what they had to ask this week. All right, let me go ahead and shuffle some screens around and pretend the buttons are actually going to work today. Of course they're not. This damn vertical feed, I bitch about it every week. It doesn't matter. It's never going to get fixed. Who cares? We deal with it. That's part of the time. Part of the charm of the SWTS is we suck. Our content sucks. The presentation sucks. The host sucks. And our technology sucks. So, all right, here we go. First question coming up here. It's always nice to see questions from new people. This one's coming from I'm Ready, How About You over on YouTube. And they're saying, how has Boonta Eve on Tatooine changed over time? Episode 1 to post-Empire. Well, I believe, didn't we? I think we saw the Boonta Eve races taking place, or at least it was Boonta Eve time in, what was that, maybe season 2, season 3 of The Mandalorian, maybe even the Book of Boba Fett when he's picking up that starfighter, right? I mean, remember when he first gets the N1 starfighter, he's kind of flying around. It looks like the Boonta Eve celebration's going on. But what I think happened, you know, especially after the Phantom Menace, that's where the big race we saw where Anakin wins at the end, you know, that's so wizard, all that type of stuff. But that was like Boonta Eve in pod racing. That was like the big time race of the year. Think of like kind of like the Daytona 500. But over time, you know, the pods got faster, the races got nastier, but then the Empire showed up. So at least the Boonta Eve race itself, I believe, kind of had to go a bit underground. You know what I mean? You know, you had Imperial control. They're clamping down on everyone's fun. You know, no one can have a good time under the Empire. So I'm ready. How about you? I'm pretty sure, at least in terms of the pod race that would take place during Boonta Eve, I think it went underground. And I think all pod racing had to go underground under the Imperial era. But like I says, it seems like things were resurrected. At least the Boonta Eve festivities were reignited post-Empire, as we saw in the Mando-verse era. All right, next question here. This one's coming from our boy Kramer. He's chomping at the bit to ask this one. I did miss their questions last week, so my bad, dude. My B. Kramer saying, thoughts on the Steelers' moves during free agency? I don't know what to tell you, Kramer. I still can't get excited about this team. I mean, it goes back to I don't like the Mike McCarthy hire. I don't like that they're still dicking around waiting on Aaron Rodgers. They don't really have a solution at quarterback. So I don't really care that you're bringing in Pittman Jr. I don't care that you're bringing in Rico Dowdle. I don't care about the defensive guys they're bringing in, because until you have a stud quarterback, as we have learned in this league, you're a nobody. You're a pretender. The most you're going to do is maybe back into the playoffs and then get your ass kicked out. So I think they've been more aggressive than I've remembered. That's because they've had a cachet of stock picks. But until they identify a quarterback that isn't named Aaron Rodgers, I mean, hell, at this point, give me Will. Give me Will Howard. Let's see what he can do. Big Ben believes in him. I believe in him. He's a champion. He's a Buckeye. He can't be that bad. So let's see what he can do. Let's not worry about Aaron Rodgers. You know, enough's enough. He wasn't that good last year. Get some new blood in there. So there you go on that. And then Kramer ends with, have I been watching season 2 of Monarch on Apple TV? And my answer to you, young man, is yes. But unfortunately, I am only one episode in. I thought the first episode back was pretty good. It would have been nice to maybe leave some of the cliffhangery, but they kind of wrapped up a lot of the hangers that we got at the end of season 1, and it looks like we're going to move forward into season 2 with some new tales to tell. But I do really enjoy Monarch. If that's a series you have not checked out yet, especially if you like kind of the I don't know, is it the Monsters universe, whatever it is, King Kong and Godzilla, how those have crisscrossed paths now. Monarch is related to all of that. So I like that world building we get there, but I also like how Monarch is told itself. Its narrative is split between 2 timelines. And that's where you get the Russell family coming in there with Wyatt playing a younger version of Kurt playing the older version of Wyatt. It just really works well. I like that type of stuff where there's been time travel and people haven't aged or they have aged and they're rekindling old relationships. So big fan of Monarch. Definitely need to get my ass in gear and start catching up with some of the newer episodes out here. But yeah, the Russell family, both Wyatt and Kurt, big draws, big reason to check out Monarch. Hey there, Xavier H8E2F. Yo, right back at you, brother. Welcome to the Star Wars Time Show. All right, next question, and ask me anything. Coming from Ponda Boca. Ponda saying, saw the water damage pic. Sorry. What's your collection storage situation like? Well, if you're not familiar with what Ponda's talking about, we had our kitchen remodeled a few months ago, and twice now we've had the new water line that was ran to the fridge burst. First time it burst right behind the fridge, sprayed water all over the new drywall. They had to rip that out. But it leaked down to my crawl space. And my crawl space is what Ponda Boca is asking about. Crawl space is where I keep all of my old collectibles. I'm talking shit from the 80s, the 90s, the early aughts. Pretty much anything I'm not displaying. So we're talking Kenner Star Wars, Power of the Force, both green and orange card Star Wars. We're talking the Micro Machines, you name it. I mean, my dad collected a lot, never let me touch it. I've kind of inherited it all. So that's still what my collection storage is looking like. It is dried out. I have gotten new banker boxes, and I think I'm going to start covering them in plastic bags. Fingers crossed, no more water leaks. But so far, only lost about $700 worth of collectibles, but luckily the contractor paid me back for those. So, I can't be too upset. So, hey there, Lord of Thane. Good to see you. Yeah, there's no rage baiting over here, Xavier. So unless I've said something that's ragey baity, my apologies. But we still tend to try to celebrate Star Wars pop culture a bit. We're not the angry crowd that gets pissed off at everything that Lucasfilm and Disney or George in the past has done. So welcome. All right, we got another question coming from the YouTube fans, JJG5193. In hindsight, what Legends novel or novel series do you think should have been adapted to TV? Not that I read a lot, but I have a feeling even if young Nick was here, who does read Star Wars books or the Legend, the EU type of stuff, I think the overwhelming response to those types of Star Wars fans would be the Heir to the Empire trilogy. Xavier, I've shouted you out like 10 times, brother. How's it going? Welcome to the club. So, yeah, JJG, I am going with Heir to the Empire as a Legends novel series that should be adapted to TV. I know they've borrowed a little bit from it. I know Thrawn and Paleon are in the Ahsoka series and Mando, but it's not exactly what Zahn kind of portrayed. So, get some of that Luke stuff in there and Thrawn's little force blocking lizard cat thing. And with that old Jedi clone guy, who knows? This is all weird stuff. Like I said, but I didn't read it, but I think Heir to the Empire should be the winner here, JJG. All right. Next up, coming from Bango in our Ask Me Anything segment here. If you had to choose the parameters of the next big Star Wars film, what are your choices for era, director, leads, tone? Crap. Era. Let's do something new. Let's go Old Republic. quite frankly. And let's do James Mangold. And leads, hell, we might as well just throw Keanu in there so he can take on the mantle of Revan. And I'd like the tone to be dark and serious, a little more adult oriented, kind of like Revenge of the Sith, if not a light R. So there you go, Bango. That's what I'm going with on that one. Next up, League of Extraordinary Sixers. She's asking, am I late? You're never late, League. We always got time for you. Thoughts on the Rousey v. Carano fight coming up? I'll tell you what, League. I didn't even know this was a thing until today. I saw some bumps, I think, on Twitter or whatever, and it looks interesting. It doesn't seem to be a part of UFC. I'm guessing this is a Netflix thing, maybe a Netflix special. And I liked what Rousey was saying. Carano had some good sound bites. I mean, listen, I still think Gina's a little off kilter in some of her other opinions, but she's happy now. Her people are in charge, and things are different than when she had issues with Disney. So hopefully she can smile now and appreciate the world she has brought upon us. And I wish them both the best of luck. You know what I mean? I would definitely pull for Rousey in this fight, but I think it's going to be a good one. And Gina definitely has the size on her. She seems to be a bit taller, a little more mass. But Rousey, she just looks mean still looks mean, even though I think she's a mom now. So good stuff. Yeah, I'll probably be tuning in if it's on Netflix. Yeah, it looks like it is on Netflix. So let's do it. Let's do it. So yeah, I'm down for that. Let's see what happens between these two. Really, I mean, Carano was one of the first famous female UFC warriors, so you got to give her that. And then Rousey was one of the most dominant, if the most dominant. So it should be a good card either way. All right, next question. Looks like it's going to be the last one, coming from Nova Toymation. Will you be rewatching all of the Mandoverse shows before the new movie comes out? I don't know, Bub. There's a lot to get through. I've got other series stacked up. I might check in with some of the Mandalorian, but yeah, remember, these shows by now I've probably seen 2 or 3 times through because of creating content for the channel, for the podcast, whatever. Yay, fireworks. So I don't know if I really need to rewatch any of the Mandoverse. I'd probably go back to season 3, the one that is not the best, but still not too bad, to kind of get caught up to where Din and Grogu were left off on the end of that. But I ain't got time for Mando season 1, season 2, Book of Boba Fett, Mando season 3, Ahsoka season 1. You know what I mean? I'll save the Ahsoka stuff potentially for when season 2 gets announced. All right. And that is that for Ask Me Anything. Like I said, if you want to get involved, just make sure you're following us on our socials. Turn on those notifications. We post a prompt up on Discord, YouTube, Instagram, sometimes on X. You never know. That's what I say. Follow us everywhere. Make us feel special. All right, before we get into some of this Star Wars news, in particular, Mando and Grogu updates from that new issue of Empire, I do have 2 little movie reviews to bring to you. Checked out 2 new flicks last week. The first one being The Bride from Maggie Gyllenhaal, starring Jessie Buckley in Batman. And I'll tell you what, it seems to be getting slaughtered by the critics, but I can agree with some of their points. The whole plot is kind of chaotic, and sometimes I'm not really understanding what Maggie and the writers were getting at. But I'll tell you what, this Jessie Buckley girl is one hell of an actress. I mean, she more or less plays 3 roles in The Bride, and she is compelling. She is the reason to go watch this movie. I mean, Bale's pretty good as Frank, a.k.a. Frankenstein's creature. It's a very odd film. It's definitely a unique take on, The Bride of Frankenstein from Mary Shelley. But it is weird. I mean, it is weird. It is very artsy fartsy. It's strange at times. Times you're like I said, you're gonna be going like, what the fuck is going on here? But I ultimately enjoyed it. I don't know if it's something you need to go see at the movies outside of supporting theaters, But it's pretty far out if you're into, Mary Shelley's universe and those characters of Frankenstein, the Bride of Frankenstein, and some of the weird shit that happens there. So take it for what it is. That's what I think of The Bride. I'd probably give it 1 thumb up, maybe, 6.5, 7 out of 10 if you were asking for a rating. The other new movie I checked out this weekend is War Machine, starring Alan Ritchson, which debuted on Netflix. This is another one that's like, I don't know. I mean, it's not terrible. You're not going to feel like you're wasting your time. But overall, the plot is very basic. I was watching it with a buddy, the old intern here at SWTS, and he's like, yo, man, this feels like AI wrote the script, and he's not too far off. But there's worse things you can do on a rainy weekend day than War Machine, so go out there. Man, if you got a Netflix subscription, you might as well throw it up. Alan's pretty good in it. There is some good, battle gore, heads exploding, chests exploding, that type of stuff. But think kind of Predator, but with machines and not nearly as good. So War Machine, I'd probably give maybe like a 6 out of 10, 6.5 out of 10. Something like that. So there you go. There's some updates on some new flicks out there, just in case you were on the edge. Should I watch them? Should I not watch them? I just let you know what to do. So go for it. All right, let's get into that Star Wars stuff. Yeah, there's always time for Star Wars time, as we like to say around here, because we are a podcast for a more uncivilized age. And if you want to get involved, like I said, we do a weekly show on Wednesdays. Some weeks it's going to be live. Some weeks it's going to be pre-recorded with the instant premiere, so there will be a live stream chat. But you can always bank on them coming out 6 p. East, youtube.com/Star Wars Time Show. All right, so Empire. Oh, hold on, real quick. League sent this over right before I went live, so I do want to talk about this. And I'm guessing she sent this to me because this Craven in Outer Space YouTube channel seemed to team up with one of my favorite YouTube channels out there, the Arlnauts. The Arlnauts have made some of the most zany, bonky, hilariously stupid remakes of these Star Wars films. And it looks like they teamed up with Craven in Outer Space to do this Star Wars Throne Room Andor special edition video. I did not get time to watch it yet, League, but it's definitely something I'm going to tune into at the end of this broadcast. But I did want to highlight it for anyone else that likes Arlnaut type of content. I mean, just knowing the Arlnauts are involved, I'm guessing there's like some stupidity in this, and it's not some serious remake of the throne room celebration from the end of A New Hope. I have a feeling there are some cheeky lines in there, something that's going to make you go, huh, or maybe laugh a little bit. So thanks for sharing. I definitely plan to check it out after the show. The Arlnauts have not made a lot of new content since really I think the sequel trilogy. They did a take on the Kenobi series, but they really haven't done much since. But I don't know, if you like just brain dead humor, like stupid shit, if you laugh at just stupid ass shit, you'll like the Arlnauts, and they're even better if you're on, mind substances. I'll leave it at that. But like I was saying here, yeah, Kramer, it's in Discord somewhere. I forget where she put it, but you should be able to find it. And like I said, if you want to join our Discord, we got an open link in the description of this video. So go ahead and hit it up. Hang out with us. There's a few active people in there. We like to have some fun because we know there's always time for Star Wars time. Okay, let's get into the new stuff. Empire Magazine came out last week, and so we got a bunch of little hints at what may be happening, or more informed on what are some character choices are going to take place in the Mando and Grogu movie. Before we get there was a piece in Variety featuring Kathleen Kennedy, who is, leaving Lucasfilm, or has left Lucasfilm, and is, kind of put Dave and Lin-Wen Brennan in charge. But she did provide some insights into the Mando and Grogu movie. In fact, it is it's exactly what Nick and I were. I think we were asking this a couple weeks ago. Like, hey, Grogu needs to start doing some stuff. He needs to start doing more than just being cute looking and cheeky and eating and using the Force to eat macaroons. And, you know, he's always stuffing his face or pushing buttons. So we were wondering, like, hey, is this the movie? Is this the time? The Mandalorian Grogu, is this when we're finally going to hear the little guy talk? Is he going to make some words? I'm not saying it's got to be like, you know, the Yoda stuff, the backwards talk, but just say a word. Say dad or something like that. Well, Kathleen Kennedy has already spoiled that. So here we go. Let me find the exact quote here, but she definitely gives us an answer if we're going to hear Grogu talk in the Mando and Grogu film. All right, so she's in the article kind of talking about her legacy and, you know, how she worked on E.T. and how they didn't know what E.T. was going to sound like, but it was more about his look and the vibe his look gave off. So that's kind of where she's coming at here. So, you know, she moves into talking about Grogu and how he has worked so well as a character that doesn't talk because of, you know, just his emotions, the way he reacts, the way the puppeteers bring him to life. That is the charm of Grogu, as she says here. She, like I said, she says another perfect example of a character that has to emote and you have to feel connected, and he never speaks a word. And she's talking about Grogu, just like she was kind of talking about E.T. And she goes on to say that, hey, we're all going to fall deeper in love with the little guy on the big screen, and he never says a word. So there you go. She confirms that Grogu will not be speaking in the new film, which I don't know. I mean, it's kind of a bummer. It felt like the perfect time to have Grogu say something. I'm not saying he's got to start talking in sentences. I mean, obviously he's still young for his species, so he should be able to, you know, maybe form some basic words or basic phrases, but Kathleen Kennedy is saying, no, that's not happening. So unless she is trolling young Nick, I would not expect on Grogu doing much more than the emotes we've seen him do over 3 seasons of Mando and a couple episodes of the Book of Boba Fett. So that is kind of a bummer. I was hoping he'd maybe just, like I said, say dad or Din or this is the way. You know what I mean? Something like that. Because then he like almost beat this is the way in Mando season 3. Things is like something like that. But it doesn't seem like it's going to happen. And like I say, it feels like a perfect time to do it because we know from the trailers that Grogu and Din are going to be separated for a part of the movie. Something's going to happen where they get separated. Grogu's hanging out with the Anzellans, Babu Frick and them. So it'd be nice to maybe hear him talk there or scream out. But Kathleen has, like I said, shot that down. It's not happening. And now, don't blame her. She didn't write the movie. This is Favreau and Filoni. But the little green guy will not be speaking anytime soon. It does kind of feel like they're never going to make him speak, or at least in this era of his life, the Mandoverse era, we are never going to hear from him. So maybe that's why he doesn't show up in the sequel trilogy, because he is mute. He has no way to communicate to people outside of using his Force mental projections. So it is what it is. No Grogu speaking in Mando and Grogu movie. So boo-hish yuck. And yeah, the fans in the stream are like, oh, Nick's going to be upset. Don't worry. Nick was so upset. He's the one that actually sent me that article. And Nick pretty much never, ever, ever participates in the topics we're going to do each week or things that interest him when it comes to talking about Star Wars news on the SWTS. So you know that was burning his ass when he read that article if he took the time out on a weekend to send it to me in our Slack channel. So I thought that was pretty funny. He was so pissed off. He's like, you know what? I'm going to contribute a topic to the show this week, even though I'm not going to participate on the show. All right, next one here. Again, we're still in the Mandalorian and Grogu universe. This one's coming from Empire, and we get a little bit of insights, a little bit of explanation, more of a tease from Pedro and Favreau on why we saw Din without his helmet in the trailer. I know a lot of fans were burnt over that. They're like, hey man, what the fuck? That's part of the creed. He literally spent all season 3 to go in the living waters on the Mandalore to redeem himself for taking off his helmet at the end of season 2. So why throw all that away? Well, according to this article in Favreau and Pedro, there's a reason for it. In fact, it's the best of reasons according to Pedro, even though he can't really tell us the exact reason. I still think it's because he really doesn't have a choice. I think him and Grogu are going to get split up. The twins definitely capture Din, and they just rip his helmet off. So I don't think it's him taking the helmet off. I think it's being forcibly removed from him to kind of castigate him a bit. Tear him down and to terrorize him as he is a prisoner of the twins. But anyways, let's see what the creators and the actor had to say about the seeing Din unmasked again in The Mandalorian Grogu when it hits theaters on May 22nd. So, according to Favreau, it's a tricky thing. It's always a tricky thing to have Din out of his helmet because it's not a decision the creators take lightly. But, as he was telling Empire, he's like, listen, because you do want to see his face, but the archetype is that of the helmet. So how do we find a way to do it without undermining everything that we developed about the Mandalorian creed? So whatever reason for Din's unmasking, again, I think it's going to be forced by the Hutt twins. It does give our boy Pedro some time to rip it. No mask. He can actually emote with his own face and act. And, yes, Pedro is still going to be filling the armor with Lateef and Brendan, but it does sound like, at least according to this article, a lot of the film is going to be Pedro under the Beskar. So here's a quote here. You'll see Pedro in the armor, both with and without the helmet. And this is coming from Jon Favreau. And according to Favreau, I guess Pedro's work on Gladiator 2 actually helped him kind of get better at some action scenes, sword fighting, things like that. So I guess Pedro was ready to kick some ass for the Mando and Grogu movie. And Favreau is saying, hey, he's a pretty physical performer. So we pushed a little further than we have in the past as far as what he's doing, helmet off. So you're probably going to see Din in action, kicking butt with his helmet off. And that's probably going to be the first time in the character Din Djarin's career where it's actually Pedro doing the action and not Lateef or Brendan. So that's pretty cool. Everyone's got to like Pedro, right? But according to Pedro himself, apparently the motivations that John wrote into the script for Din being unmasked felt just right. So Pedro learned that he was going to have to show his face on a call with John, and John gave him a beat-by-beat breakdown on the film's narrative, and this is what Pedro had to say. He's like, yo, when we got to that part, all I can say is that it made perfect sense, and it was what I was hoping would be the reason. If I were to pitch something, I would say the only thing that makes sense is, and that's exactly it. He filled that blank. I said immediately, John, that's exactly what I was hoping to hear. This is the way. So that's interesting. It sounds like, Pedro had an idea of what would it take? What would motivate Din to be unmasked or take his helmet off? And it sounds like John nailed that. Now, like I said, if you look at the trailer, I don't know how we can't just sit here and be like, well, he gets captured by the Hutts for some reason. I'm talking about the twins. You can see one of the twins' robot guards, assassins, taking the helmet off, and then you see the male twin holding the helmet as he's talking shit to Din, essentially making threats like, hey, we're going to punish him as much as we're going to punish you, probably talking about Grogu. So I can only think that Din has to sacrifice himself at the twins' castle, fortress, whatever we want to call it, to ensure that Grogu can get away. And due to that sacrifice, like I said, he's going to have his helmet removed. So I'm thinking that's kind of what Pedro is talking about when he's referring to that there's only one thing that could motivate Din to break the creed again. So we'll just have to find out. But I think the other nugget here is that Pedro is going to be doing much more acting as Din than we've seen in the TV shows, which is cool. Hey, who do we got in here? Oh, KG2121. Welcome. It's good to see you again. It's always nice to see people trickle in here who haven't been around in a while. So good to have you back. Hopefully you're digging the Mando news recap we got for you right here. So there you go. That is a little bit of insights into why you're seeing Din without the helmet in the trailers. And according to both Favreau and Pedro Pascal, it's going to be a very poignant, makes sense type of reason that Din is going to lose his helmet in the film. All right, we got one more little story about the Mando and Grogu, and this one's coming from Jeremy Allen White, who is voicing Rotta the Hutt, which, you know, we got an official image of. You can see it on the live stream here. If not, head on over to Empire's website, if you will, to check it out. As promised, as we teased many, many moons ago, I mean, Rotta the Hutt, he ain't stinky anymore. He is a beast. I mean, he is swole. This dude's got pecs. He's got a six-pack. He can't help that he is a massive slug. So, you know, it's not like he can have quads or anything, but I'm guessing his tail's pretty damn swole too. But that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about some insights on Rotta from Jeremy Allen White. And the first one is kind of exactly what I called. You know, they're talking about him in this article, and they say, hey, Rotta's in top form, fighting in the pits, a gladiator of sorts, teases director Jon Favreau. That's where we're going to find him. And that's kind of what I've been asking. Why the hell is the son of Jabba in a gladiatorial setting? Why? You know what I mean? Like, why did he not take over for his dad when Leia killed him? Why did Bib end up doing that? And that's why I kind of think there's going to be an angle between the New Republic and the crime lords out there, the Hutts out there, to where I think they're going to need Din to get information from Rotta on the crime syndicates, maybe even some Imperial warlords. But why is Rotta in this gladiator arena? Why did he choose to become a gladiator? Was he forced out? You know, was it kind of like Gladiator, where, you know, he used to be in a prominent family as the general, remember? And Maximus, and then, you know, he does one thing or the other, and he kind of gets framed and tossed aside and sent to the gladiator arenas. Is it going to be something like that? Did the twins banish him here? Or is Rotta just, you know, he's like, I've never been interested in this shit, and he's doing it on his own. So that's kind of what we're speculating over here on the SWTS, is that it doesn't feel like Rotta is doing this by choice. Maybe he is, but it almost feels like he's been exiled from Tatooine, from his dad's empire on Tatooine, from the Hutt crime syndicate for one reason or another. Yeah, so like KG, I do believe, even though we've seen in the trailer where it looks like Din and Rotta go toe-to-toe, I think that's Din's way of getting close to him and making his pitch, and then ultimately I do think Rotta will help Din on his adventure. Yeah, KG, I don't know what's going on with this thing. I gotta kill this damn video feed over on Empire's website. But anyway, so you got that. It's confirmed Rotta is a gladiator. He's in some fighting pit for one reason or the other. But we also get a little insights into how we're going to hear him talk. And this came from Jeremy Allen White, who is voicing Rotta in the film. And he does discuss, like, hey, yeah, you are going to hear a little bit of Huttese. So you're going to get to hear Jeremy Allen White, a.k.a. movie screen Bruce Springsteen, talk Hutt's language. But he says you're mostly going to hear Rotta speaking basic. So apparently Jeremy Allen White created a special voice for Rotta. He says, my speaking voice changes as Rotta. He says, you know, it was helpful, of course, to listen to Jabba, but even when he speaks basic, Rotta is going to have a very unique sounding Jeremy Allen White voice. So, you know, what's that going to sound like? Jeremy said, like, listen, I don't know what sort of modulation effects they're going to put on this voice in post. Is it going to be like, oh, Shuda, kind of like Jabba was in Return of the Jedi? Or will they just kind of use the spin Jeremy Allen White put on it? But, there's this little thing at the end of this article. It just says, hey, just how much of Jabba is in Rhoda remains to be seen. Favreau likens the character to Adonis Donnie Creed in the Creed movies, a character living in their father's shadow. When you're trying to establish yourself and your name is famous, when you're Jabba the Hutt's kid, what does that do? How has that affected his trajectory? I get a kick out of that. So, I don't know. I mean, that kind of makes it sound like Rhoda is almost trying to get away from Jabba's shadow, establish himself. Does that mean he's trying to start his own crime syndicate, or does he just want to get away from that altogether? But believe it or not, it sounds like a Hutt is going to be a fairly major, or at least influential character on the narrative on Din and Grogu in The Mandalorian and Grogu. So, kind of. League's got a good comment here in the live stream chat. The arena scene with Rhoda and Din reminded me of Hulk and Thor in their scenes. So yeah, I think it's going to kind of be the same way, where they're going to start off kind of antagonistic, but ultimately, whatever information is exchanged, they're going to end up working together, or Rhoda is at least going to give the intel that Din is so desperately seeking, more than likely for the New Republic. So, I don't know. Listen, I'm excited for this movie. I know young Nick isn't dying for it, and honestly, I don't know if Star Wars fans in general are super excited for The Mandalorian Grogu. I think some people would have preferred if it stayed as a TV series to, give it a longer narrative, more of a slow burn. But hey, this is where we're at. I bet this movie is lucky to be 2 hours long. It might not even be over 2 hours. So we'll see what they cram in there and what sort of connective tissue they create between what has happened in the Mandoverse show so far and then what's coming after this movie, which should be Ahsoka Season 2. So is there going to be any setup for Ahsoka Season 2? Will they dabble talking about Thrawn's return and the New Republic? We know Din's going to be working with the New Republic via Colonel Ward, a.k.a. Sigourney Weaver, and as well as Zeb. So you would hope that we hear a little bit about the galaxy at large and what has happened since Thrawn has come back to the galaxy, leaving Peridea, stranding Ahsoka and Sabine there, and as well as Shin and Balin. So, but we'll just have to see. I think if there's no exposition on the Mandoverse at large, that's going to be a mistake. I don't think this movie can feel like a standalone Din and Grogu adventure, even though that's what it's shaping up to be here. Here we got one from KG saying, Disney could be building more hype around it, but I also understand why they're being conservative with the marketing budget. Yeah, I mean, listen, it depends how much you know about the movie business, but typically marketing costs almost as much as making the movie. So if the movie costs $100 million, your marketing could be close to $100 million as well. Now, who knows in the day and age of AI if they're going to leverage that to kind of make those things cheaper. But it does not feel like they're going crazy with the marketing for this film. We've had 2 trailers at this point. I think the first TV spot released this week, but it mostly just showed the same content from the trailer. So we'll have to see. The best part is I'll be on vacation when it comes out. So I might not even see it on opening day, which kind of makes me feel like a bit of a loser, but it is what it is. I'm going to be at the coast. I love the beach. I love beach towns. I love the sand. I love just tuning out for 2 weeks straight. So I'm probably not going to see this until early June, and then Nick and I will be giving our opinion on it, our breakdown of it on it, just in time for everyone to not give a shit. But that's kind of how we roll over here at the SWTS. All right, I got one more little news story before I get into my recap and review of the first issue of The Shadow of Maul, which is the prequel comic for the upcoming Maul Shadow Lord animated series debuting on Disney Plus April 6th, which, by the way, people, It's going, I don't know, I didn't know this. I guess I should have looked ahead when they announced the date, but Maul Shadow Lord is going to be a Monday release. You know, Disney's been all over the place with their release days. It first started, it was Fridays, I think, when the first season and the second season of Mando came out. Then they moved it to maybe a Wednesday and then a Tuesday. And it seemed Tuesday was becoming the new release day for Disney Plus. But Shadow Lord is actually going to debut on a Monday. I'm guessing they did that to kind of line up with May the 4th, which is going to be the final 2 episodes of Shadow Lord Season 1. But just a note, a reminder out there, Shadow Lord will be a Monday release type of show on Disney Plus, not a Tuesday. And we will be doing our breakdowns on Wednesday, so you're going to have a day buffer to get caught up and ready for it. I don't know when I'll make my own content. I've got to figure that out because I have OCD. Yeah, KG, if there's shitty weather, you're for damn sure. I'll go watch it at a beach theater. But even that, I'm kind of a cinema snob in that I prefer big ass theaters. So, and specialized theaters. So think like, IMAX, Dolby Atmos, or AMC Prime. I mean, those are probably my top 3 formats to watch a film in. And I just don't know if a beach town movie house is going to have the technology to do justice for the sound and the visuals. So you never know. Like I said, if we unfortunately get, knock on wood here, crappy weather when the movie's out, that would definitely fill some time. Okay, like I said, I got one more little newsy thing to do here, and this is another one. I mean, this is just Star Wars these days for you. We're talking about one of the games that was announced, but just like movies that are announced, even Star Wars games now that get announced can sometimes take 5, 10 years, or they just get canceled altogether. So I'm talking about the Knights of the Old Republic remake that we literally heard about, 5 years ago. I can't believe it's been that long. I mean, it doesn't feel like it's been that long, but apparently we got the first reveal for the Knights of the Old Republic in 2021. So it's been 5 years. Many people have just kind of stuck a fork in it or like, yeah, this shit's dead. It's never happening. But out of nowhere, a couple days ago, Saber Interactive and came out, their CCO, their Chief Creative Officer, Tim Willits, said, listen, yes, it is still in development. That's all I can say. So the KOTOR remake is not dead yet. I don't know how it isn't dead because it's been 5 years. It's changed studios at least once, maybe twice. So who the hell knows what's going on with it? But it is not dead, and that's a good thing because this is a game I would appreciate to see see the light of day. I want to see it the light of day. I know that makes no sense, but we're stupid over here, so you're just going to have to get used to dumb words coming out of our stupid mouths. So, yeah, KOTOR remake still in development. When this game comes out, it has to be one of the most advanced video games of all time, even though it's based on a game from the early 2000s, because this thing has had 5 years of development, multiple studios, all sorts of eyes on hands on it. So let's see. Fingers crossed, because I do want this one to make the light of day. Within the same article, apparently, that there are plans to also remake KOTOR 2. Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic 2, kind of a loose follow-up to the first one. It wasn't as good as KOTOR 1, but hey, it was all right. You got some cool characters in there. You got the Sith Triumvirate. You got Traya, Scion, Nihilus. So I haven't played it, I think, since it first came out. So I would definitely be down for a remake of that as well. But, let's not hold our breaths. If they're just talking about now, that means it might be out in 2031, 2032. As with all things Star Wars these days, unless you get an actual release date and you start seeing gameplay trailers, don't hold your breath. Luckily, it looks like Galactic Racer is definitely going to get released because we've seen multiple trailers for that, all sorts of write-ups, so that's a good thing. So at least we're going to have a Star Wars racing game coming up here soon. and it doesn't look like it's going to get canceled. So that is a bonus. All right, let's get into a little recap and review of the Shadow of Maul comic series. Again, this is from Marvel. It's supposed to serve as a prequel to the upcoming Shadow Lord show on Disney+. But like I was saying earlier, if you weren't here, the release of this comic makes no sense to me. If this is a prequel, why are they just starting to release it now? Issue 1 came out last week. Issue 2 isn't coming out until 2 days after Shadow Lord debuts on Disney+. So if you want to make a prequel for the series, why are you releasing a bulk of it, meaning the last 3 to 4 issues, as the actual series it's supposed to inform is already out? Okay, so I've got a little bit of an issue with that. The release cadence makes no sense. This is something they probably should have started releasing in December, since you only get one new comic book a month. So they could have done December, January, February, March. So we got the whole prequel tale ingested and ready to rock, and then Shadow Lord comes out. So anyways, I'll stop bitching about that, and I'll go into a brief recap and review here. Recap wise, what this comic really does is it establishes kind of the tone of the planet the series is going to take on, which is Janix. All right, Janix is described as a bustling mid-rim metropolis. It's home to some of the most unsavory characters the galaxy has to offer. As the captain of the local tactical defense force, Brander Lawson is trying to keep them all in check. But on these neon-lit streets, a new threat is always lurking just around the corner. So that's kind of what this first issue is doing. It's setting up one of the main characters of the Shadow Lord series, and that is Brander Lawson, aka Captain Brander Lawson, a former bounty hunter who is a part of the the Janix tactical defense force. And you can tell that it's not like the cops or anything, even though that's kind of how they operate. But as it's been told to us, Janix it's loosey-goosey. Yes, they have a police force established, but there's so many crime syndicates and shady things going down on this planet that they all kind of coexist together. It's like, hey, you can do your shady stuff as long as you don't mess with Janix society too much. Basically, it sounds like from this comic, it's like, hey, everyone, do your shady shit, deal in exotic animal trades and poison sales, as long as you're not causing a big enough commotion to get the Empire involved. Because according to everything we know about Shadow Lord and Janix, apparently Janix so far, at least 2 to 3 years into the Empire, is untouched by the Empire. They've had no reason to go there and dominate and control like they have some other planets. So in this issue, like I said, it starts with Lawson. He's being interrogated by like internal affairs, kind of asking him like, "Hey, what went down on this mission where we lost, 2 officers?" So the issue kind of goes back and forth in between the past and the present. You get an idea of who Brander is. He's kind of a no nonsense type of quasi cop. He's definitely got skills from his time as a bounty hunter. But what really goes down in this first issue is that he goes to set up this Demas guy, try to catch him selling poison, and all hell breaks loose. And they kind of realize that, like, hey, we've got a Maul in our task force. And, the comic kind of reveals who one of the moles are that breaks that out, so it's like, it's very basic. You realize that Brander's not a fool. He knows how to kind of set things up to kind of root out these mole type of characters. And, all is well and good in the world of Brander and his robot pal, Two Boots. So really, that's what this first issue is. It just sets up 2 of the main characters in Brander and Two Boots. And then at the very end, you kind of get some Maul finally. And you learn how Maul kind of gets the ship we see him coming out of in the trailer. So that's kind of the recap. Nothing really happens outside of, learning a bit about Brandor and Two Boots and how shady Janix is, and how there's even, moles, spies, if you will, in this tactical defense force. So, like I said, I mean, Janix said there is no righteous people. Everyone's got a little shadiness to them. But there was barely any Maul, which I didn't like. I mean, 90% of this issue 1 was all about Brandor and Two Boots and learning about why he's being interrogated by internal affairs and why he's kind of a no-nonsense type of captain. Like, hey, don't get in my way. I'm going to run you over type of a guy. But you can tell he cares about Janix. He cares about keeping it off the Empire's radar, which is going to make sense for when the series comes out, Shadow Lord, because clearly we know Maul shows up there, and he's showing up there to kind of get his crime syndicate back in order. And more than likely, having someone like Maul on Janix is going to be a beacon of hell. It is going to be a beacon that the Empire is more than likely going to catch wind of. And so Brandor clearly is not going to be a fan of Maul stirring the flames on Janix and exposing them to Imperial occupation. So I think that's kind of the gist of this prequel. Is just going to be Maul making his way to Janix and us learning more about Brandor and Two Boots, and really just kind of the ethics or the unethical society of Janix. So for a review, issue 1 of Shadow of Maul sucked. It did. It really did. I'll jump on this grenade for people. I'll read the next 3 or 4 issues. It just was not exciting at all until the last 2 pages where we finally got to see Maul, and he mauls out. He goes to this pilot. It feels like it was under the guise that he was going to pay this pilot to kind of shuttle him to Janix, but Maul does Maul things, and you know what I mean. He kind of takes charge and gets the ship under his own possession, if you will. So not a great comic. Probably not worth reading unless you're a diehard Maul fan, or you're like me and you can't help yourself. You got to learn everything about Janix, Maul, Brandor, Two Boots before the series comes out. But it was not exciting. Like I said, it was KG kind of Jim Gordon Batman when you're talking about Brandor. Yeah, I would say so, but maybe even slightly shadier, if that makes sense. Jim Gordon, for the most part, why he would work with Batman, who was a vigilante. Brandor sounds like he wouldn't even want a Batman showing up on Janix, because I'm here. Because I don't know if it's in the trailer or a write-up, but it sounds like Palpatine is really going to have a hard-on for the return of Maul, and not in a good way. He wants him gone. Because Palpatine knows, he trained Maul. He knows what Maul is capable of. He saw what Maul did during the Clone Wars, where he and his brother started to build up their crime syndicate, took over Mandalore. They were making such a ruckus that Palpatine himself had to go as Darth Sidious and kill Savage and essentially get Maul locked up and taken off of Mandalore. So, I don't know. Prequel comics so far a dud. I don't think that has any bearing on the animated series. I think the animated series is going to be a banger, because Maul should become the prominent protagonist / antagonist. I mean, he's going to be the hero we follow, but he's not going to be doing heroic things. So, little let down by issue 1 of Shadow of Maul. We'll see what we get next month after the damn show starts, which, like I said, makes no sense. So, there you go. There's my recap and review of Shadow of Maul issue 1. Issue 2 not releasing until April 8th, 2 days after the release of Maul Shadow Lord on Disney+. Makes a ton of sense, marketing team. Way to go, Marvel. Hey, I got all sorts of fireworks going off today on the stream. I think it's because I'm on a Mac, and if I do 2 thumbs up, I think that means fireworks. What other things can I get here? What does if I put my hands together, does that do anything? Doesn't look like it. If I clap, will that do anything? Now I look like a trained seal on the live stream. One thumb up. What does one thumb up do? One thumb up, I thought usually does like a bubble. Yeah, there we go. How about two thumbs down? Does that do anything? Two thumbs down? Two thumbs. Oh, two thumbs down's a rainy cloud over my head. Heart? Yeah, all right. KG says a heart. Will a heart do anything? Come on. Oh, yeah, check that out. I got hearts coming out of my mouth hole. All right. I know I can. I know there's a guide somewhere where you can see what all the emotes do and whatnot. But I don't want to mess too many. I don't want to mess too many things up, if you know what I mean. You used to be able to see with the emotes. Oh well, I'm getting distracted. Don't do that, KG. I'm getting distracted. But if you know other emotes, I'll try to do them if you put them in the chat. All right, so it's going to be a quicker episode than usual, which is just fine. I don't know how the hell you people listen to us for an hour and a half, 2 hours, hell, back in the day, sometimes 4 hours for an episode of SWTS. So it's going to be okay if we come in a little under an hour and a half this week. So as we always do when we close out an episode of the Star Wars Time Show, it's time to honor our fans a bit. These days, we slimmed it down. We just do the top 5. One of these days, maybe we'll bring the question of the week back. But for now, it's top 5 Star Wars fan artist features of the week. And the way to get involved here, my friends, is if you are a creator of content, of art, we want to see it. So on Instagram, use hashtag Star Wars Time Show. But more importantly, do the add tag function at StarWarsTime.show. Because that is the bucket we look through each week to identify the top 5 Star Wars artists. We predominantly share toy photography because that's the community that tags us. But if you're a Star Wars artist, if you make claymation, stop motion, it doesn't matter. If it has Star Wars in it, we want to see it. So share it with us and you will be in consideration for the top 5. So here we go. Without further ado, this week's top 5 is... Up first, oh man, all the pages are reloading. No, I had all these loaded up. All right, bear with me, people, here. All right, here we go. Up first, we got a banger of a poster, the Clone Wars Commander Wolf with the Wolf Pack. This is coming from JZHZ6669 on Instagram, and it is just awesome. You know, Jay-Z does this. It's kind of like a series they do. They make these posters of these lovely hot toy figures, and this one with Commander Wolf just looks absolutely fantastic. Like I said, I'm scrolling through. If you're on the live stream, you can see the series of posters. It's all the Clone Bros. They're so well done. I love the layering Jay-Z does here. The composite work is fantastic. These are great. I mean, look at this. These could all be posters. This Maul one is freaking fantastic. But anyways, another great entry in JZHZ6669's series of Clone Wars posters using hot toy figures. Just an absolute banger. Absolute banger. All right, up next in this week's top 5, and bear with me, these are all going to have to load again for whatever reason. Shame on you, Mac. But we got a cool, I wouldn't even say a what-if shot from our boy Rippic_TAN on Instagram. The title of this is called Exploring the Capitol. And what you can see, you've got young Anakin, Jar Jar, R2, they're all kind of in frame. Qui-Gon is in the back. He's a little bit blurred out. But it does. I mean, it just feels like Anakin and Jar Jar are on the one maybe a lower level of Coruscant, just exploring. You can see, gunship up there, although I don't know if those would have been around when Anakin was a kid. I think those were made for the Clone Wars. But no hate, Rippic Tan, we love you. But they've got, one of those little air taxis that we saw kind of Anakin and Jin and Kenobi get picked up in from the Chancellor Valorum when they showed up after leaving Tatooine. But it's just it's such a cool shot, and it really does feel like these characters are just out exploring. Good posing on Anakin, good posing on Jar Jar. He's kind of got his head tilted, looking a little goofy, like, oh, muy, doing one of those things. Maybe he's sticking his tongue out, trying to grab a street vendor's snack. But I love this shot. Great lighting, great atmosphere. Overall, fantastic job from Rippic__Tan. Yeah, like KG saying in the live stream chat, you can really feel the ambiance of the scene. 100%. I'm with you. I am with you. Great work from Ripik Tan. All right, up next, as we wait for the reload, a great action shot from a many-time top 5 honoree, Mando _mugshots on Instagram. And this, like I said, it's just a great action shot. Think bounty hunters. We've got Forlom, we've got Zuckuss, we've got not Dangar. Oh my God, how the hell? Oh, Bosk, what an idiot. Looks like IG-88's laying on the ground. You got a dead stormtrooper. But it's just like, if you can't see it, I'm trying to explain it. You got Forlom and Zuckuss. They're kind of like in a hallway, maybe in a hovel. And Bosk is just running in. His arms are kind of spread, his legs up, and there's this huge explosion behind him. It looks like a TIE fighter might be shooting down on him. It's just, Mando mugshots, they're just known for these dynamic looking scenes, great effects, great use of practical effects, digital effects. I'm guessing that's one of those cotton balls that's kind of burn up with a light behind it to provide the explosion effect. But another banger from Mando mugshots over on Instagram. And the next top 5er of this week is, I believe this is a poster recreation from Attack of the Clones, if not I do remember seeing marketing materials that looked like this. But we've got a great reimagining from Photo Junkie over on Instagram. And if you know what I'm talking about, if you can remember back to Attack of the Clones, some of the marketing, you would have saw the clone soldiers with like Django standing in front of them, essentially implying, remember, he's the template for the clone soldiers, the clone troopers. And that's what Photo Junkie did here, but with toys. Apparently, this is a new Jango Fett figure. It looks just like young Tamara Morrison, so that's pretty amazing for a little Black Series figure. But if you think about this shot, I mean, all these clones are toys. I don't even know how the hell Photo Junkie did this. Maybe he took it off the poster and then composited it in the figure, but it works so well. And the caption here is "1 million more on the way." So just a great recreation, a rendition of some of the marketing materials you saw back during Attack of the Clones. Oh, and there's other shots with Jango's helmet on. So yeah, it looks like, no, okay, they were toys, but it was one clone trooper and Jango. So Photo Junkie literally cloned the clone troopers using some Photoshop magic to give us this finished work, and it's just very cool, very well done. Yeah, KG, that's why we love the toy photography community, because they can do amazing things with pieces of plastic. I guess that's the kind of the best way to explain it. It really is impressive what they cook up with toys, and then they don't look like toys. I mean, if you just glance at this, you without me telling you they're toys, you probably wouldn't have known. So I'm sure they'll appreciate that feedback. And then last but certainly not least, I love this shot. This comes from Karen Kolsch on Instagram, KarinKoelschch. And they released this during, I think it was International Women's Day, and it's just a banger. You've got a bunch of female Star Wars figures here holding the sign, rights, justice, action for all women and girls, equal rights, we will not be silenced, my body, my consent, the future is female, gender equality now. You've got holding the banner, Hera, oh hell, I forget this, the KB and Fern from Skeleton Crew. You got whatever the hell the Carrie Russell's character from The Rise of Skywalker's there. What is her? Zori Bliss. You've got May from The Acolyte, Isla, Aura Singh. Looks like Rey's in the far back, Bo-Katan, Sabine, and of course Princess Leia. And it's just, they're out there, I wouldn't say protesting, but, in a International Women's Day march. And I just think it's a fantastic concept, great message, excellent execution by Karen Kolsch over on Instagram. So if you're into this type of stuff, all these artists, you can find them on Instagram. Just look up their names, give them a follow, show them some support, because they really do amazing things with these little pieces of plastic. All right, everyone. That's about it for today. I always appreciate those that join me live. So we got KG, great to see you in here. Kramer, League, Bango, even though he jumped out early. And then Xavier also jumped out early. Hopefully more people catch it on the replay. But, you know, hey, there's always time for Star Wars time. Don't forget to sign up, sub to the channel. It won't cost you a thing. But if you do like what we do and you want to support us, you know, help maybe make our tech better, at least, or make me feel less like a loser, you can consider becoming a channel member. You can do that down below. After you subscribe, just go ahead and hit that join button. You can join for as low as $1.99 a month. As League is showing us on the live stream right now, you get access to custom emojis you can use in YouTube chats, as well as a tiered Vader cat next to your name. What I mean by tiered, the longer you are a channel member, the greater your Vader cat grows and becomes. Hey, Linda's on here too. Good to see you, Linda. It's been a while. Always love seeing you interact with the SWTS. We appreciate you, Linda. And KG saying I'd never be a loser. Well, thank you. You all are just filling my bucket tonight, and that's why I like doing these live streams. Get that mental health bucket patched up. Keep me going for another week. But I do appreciate each and every one of you, even if you're just a subscriber. Hell, even if you just participate. If you don't want to subscribe, that's fine too. Just showing up and hanging out with me as we deliver the SWTS live makes me smile. All right, everyone. So you know what to do. Get out there, stump for us. Let people know we still exist. We need the support. The algorithms have beat us down. They do not show our content anywhere unless you all interact with it. Leave those comments. Share it around. Like the videos. That's all we can ask. So while we only put out one show a week, we do put out clips from our shows, both past, present, maybe even future, and YouTube Shorts. So you can find those on Instagram. You can find them on TikTok. You can find them on YouTube. All right, everyone. There's always time for Star Wars time. And if you listen to the Star Wars Time Show, watch the Star Wars Time Show, pay homage to the Star Wars Time Show, the Force will be with you. Always. Thanks, KG.